The power dies while the pregnant woman is trapped beneath the house. Something large drags itself through the darkness below her, breathing like wet machinery. Upstairs, furniture crashes across empty rooms. The front door slams open by itself while distant sirens grow louder outside the property. The woman hears an older female voice whisper directly beside her ear. It keeps repeating the same sentence, "Don't let it see the child." Hours earlier, detectives arrived at a farmhouse massacre outside the city. A father sat calmly on the porch while blood dried across his hands and neck. Inside the farmhouse, officers discovered 2 dead adults and an empty infant crib covered in mud. No newborn was found anywhere near the property. The arrested father refuses every question during interrogation. Then he suddenly smiles and asks how far along the detective's wife is. The detective freezes. His wife's pregnancy was never mentioned publicly, and only close friends even knew about it. That night, the detective returns to their rental apartment. His wife is already packing boxes beside a stack of house listings. They settle on an abandoned maternity clinic outside the city because the price is impossibly low. The realtor refuses to enter the basement during the tour. The clinic once handled births for nearby mining towns before shutting down decades earlier. Entire rooms still smell faintly of antiseptic and smoke. A man dressed completely in black watches them from across the road. The moment the detective notices him, the stranger walks into the trees. Friends help clean the building for days. While removing rotten storage bins, they discover dozens of cracked infant bracelets buried under loose dirt. The pregnant woman finds handmade dolls hidden behind basement walls. Every doll has its mouth sewn shut with black thread. During their first night inside the clinic, the woman senses someone standing outside her bedroom window. She opens the curtain and sees nothing. The detective searches the property with a flashlight and handgun. Every gate remains locked, but muddy footprints circle the house repeatedly. The next morning, their car is discovered upside down beside the driveway. The windshield is shattered outward instead of inward. Police officers search the property but find no tire marks or signs of forced entry. One deputy quietly refuses to step near the basement doors. That evening, the detective's partner agrees to guard the property overnight. They sit outside with rifles while the clinic creaks around them. A scream explodes from upstairs. The pregnant woman claims a pale nurse tried pulling her toward the hallway staircase. No intruder is found anywhere inside the building. Yet fresh fingerprints appear across the nursery walls moments after the search ends. Doctors blame the woman's exhaustion and prescribe medication to calm her anxiety. She secretly throws the pills into a kitchen trash bin before nightfall. The detective notices the discarded medication while preparing dinner. His frustration fades quickly when he sees how violently her hands are shaking. That night, the woman dreams of faceless figures crawling across the ceiling above her bed. They stop moving whenever the pale nurse enters the room. The next morning, she searches online for similar experiences. Buried deep in an old forum, she finds reports describing unborn children disappearing during blackouts. One video features a terrified survivor claiming something feeds on children before birth. The recording cuts off after heavy pounding erupts behind the camera. Desperate for answers, she visits a nearby church outside the mining district. Most of the building sits empty except for flickering candles and dust. A quiet church worker listens carefully to the entire story without interrupting once. She becomes visibly disturbed when the clinic's address is mentioned. The worker introduces her to an elderly priest known for rejecting supernatural rumors. He insists trauma and pregnancy can distort perception under stress. The priest refuses to perform any blessing without evidence of physical danger. He advises her to leave the clinic temporarily and rest elsewhere. As she leaves the church, the worker secretly follows her outside. She admits the abandoned clinic once carried a terrible reputation among local families. Back at the clinic, every faucet suddenly begins running black water. The detective shuts off the valves, but the sound continues inside the walls. The woman hears infants crying beneath the floorboards while resting upstairs. The sounds stop instantly whenever she approaches the basement entrance. That evening, the detective finally witnesses movement himself. A hospital gurney rolls across the hallway without anyone touching it. For the first time, he believes his wife may be telling the truth. They immediately return to the church seeking help from the elderly priest again. Even after hearing the detective's account, the priest remains cautious. The church worker angrily accuses him of ignoring people until they die. The worker decides to help the couple herself. She gathers candles, old records, and a metal case filled with handwritten prayers. When they return to the clinic, the pregnant woman refuses to step through the doorway. She claims something underneath the house already knows they're back. The detective apologizes for doubting her for so long. His voice shakes when he admits he heard breathing beneath the nursery floorboards earlier that day. Inside the clinic, the church worker begins blessing each room separately. Candle flames bend sideways whenever she nears the basement staircase. A woman's voice suddenly echoes through the building. It warns them not to open the lower furnace chamber beneath the basement floor. The church worker ignores the warning and forces open the furnace hatch. A wave of heat rushes upward even though the underground chamber is completely dark. Beneath the hatch, they discover a narrow tunnel lined with old delivery tools and burned blankets. The detective notices fresh footprints pressed into the ash. The pregnant woman suddenly collapses beside the tunnel entrance. While unconscious, she whispers coordinates matching an abandoned cemetery outside town. The church worker melts candle wax across the concrete floor and asks who is speaking through her. A trembling hand slowly writes the word, Mara. Moments later, the woman wakes with no memory of the incident. The detective secretly photographs the strange writing before it disappears into smoke. They search old newspaper archives late into the night. Eventually, they uncover records about a maternity nurse named Mara Vale who vanished in 1961. According to the articles, several infants disappeared during Mara's final winter at the clinic. Angry families accused her of murdering newborns before she vanished. The detective notices another detail buried deep in the reports. A mining tunnel collapse occurred directly beneath the clinic 1 month before the disappearances began. The church worker believes Mara's remains may still be hidden under the building. She becomes convinced destroying the bones will end the haunting permanently. Before dawn, they visit the surviving father from the farmhouse killings. Guards report he has spent hours laughing alone inside his locked cell.